Western Europe has already capped its carbon emissions, and at least one U.S. power company is now assuming the U.S. Congress will do the same. Duke Energy CEO Jim Rogers spoke today at the German Marshall U.S. Fund's discussion on climate change and global business. Afterward, he talked with Clean Skies' Tyler Suiters about pending climate legislation. So Tyler, Rogers has become, one of the more vocal members of the U.S. CAP, the U.S. Climate Action Partnership.
Right, Susan, and that is saying something. This group has 30 or so members right now from a pretty diverse background. There are energy companies, there are manufacturers, there are also environmental groups included in this. So when U.S. CAP rolled out its blueprint for legislative action back in January regarding climate change policy, everyone was paying attention, and it turns out apparently the people behind the scenes for the Waxman-Markey House bill were closely following this, because that version, which passed the House, very closely resembles the strategies laid out by U.S. CAP's blueprint. Now, with that in mind, today during his speech, Jim Rogers said the decisions we make as a company are based on assuming that we are already operating under climate legislation, and he added also under an international climate agreement. After that speech, I had the chance to talk to him and ask him about the advantages of having some sense of legislative certainty going forward. You made a surprising comment about the role of U.S. nuclear power, and what you said is really the country's dominance in terms of a clean energy sector.
I think if you look today and you think in terms of low carbon generation, we lead the world with nuclear energy. We produce twice the amount of electricity from nuclear than any other country in the world. That's a strength that we should play to, and we should develop that technology further and deploy it within the U.S.
If you look at your two big industries at Duke, coal and nuclear, some would think you're on the wrong side of climate legislation on both accounts, yet you're a driving force in U.S. CAP and are pushing for some certainty regarding a low-carbon future.
I believe that we have to address the carbon issue. I believe the science, I believe the political science, and I believe that we need to get prepared for a low-carbon world. The fact that every power plant that I own and operate today will be retired and replaced by 2050 gives me a very liberating capability, because I have a blank sheet of paper. And so if it is the will of our country and the world to produce electricity from low carbon sources, I can do that and will do that going forward. And so this might be the right moment to support this legislation and move forward.
And throughout his speech, Jim Rogers really touted the benefits and the potential of the private sector in this discussion. He said the key indicators regarding the preparations for a low-carbon economy are what private companies are doing right now. He also added, Susan, quoting, "As always happens, business is moving ahead of government and looking to the future."
So, Tyler, also the keynote speaker there at the discussion today is a very familiar face from a couple of Democratic administrations, David Sandilow.
Right, a very brief speech that he went on to another forum that was going on here in Washington. But you're right, Susan, he's a veteran of the Clinton administration. He worked in the State Department, the National Security Council, also the White House Council on Environmental Quality. He is now with the Obama administration's DOE, where he is Assistant Secretary for Policy and International Affairs. A pretty broad umbrella there in terms of what falls under that. Today he called the economic stimulus the largest clean energy bill ever. And to that end, he said, quote, "We're now spending money at a rate that will be transformational for the clean energy sector." Now, in terms of the international partnerships that the U.S. is working on technology transfer and mutual respect and development of these technologies, he said, yes, the international partnership with China is key. It is number one right now. But he also, Susan, mentioned India and Brazil as potential partners moving forward, crucial partners moving forward. But again, China is clearly number one. Secretaries Chu and Locke were there this summer, and President Obama himself will travel there this fall.
Right, he heads there in November. All right, Tyler Suiters, thank you.